Hello there. Welcome back, you guys. I figured I would throw down some of my ideas that I have of what we've learned from the Halo Campaign Evolved, Halo Combat Evolved remake that is going to be coming out next year in 2026. I don't think there's a definitive date set yet, but it should be sometime in the fall of 2026. We got three trailers. We got a cinematic trailer, a gameplay trailer, and then a third trailer. If you want to call it a trailer, it's just a roundtable event where a couple of the game developers kind of sat down and talked about things that they were proud about of the game. They kind of showed off a few things that aren't being shown in the cinematic trailer, as well as talked about some other plans they have for the game, along with a few other key things that were kind of laid out through Waypoint as well as during the announcement. We know there will be 3 additional levels that are all set to be prequel levels before the events of Combat Evolved, along with 9 new weapons and some new vehicles. And that's just scratching the surface of new content that's going to be coming out with the new game. This video today, I'm not going to do a reaction to the actual trailers or anything like that. What I wanted to make this video on is kind of speculating on what we're going to see. We know a few things are coming, but what are we going to get with them? What are these 3 prequel levels going to be about? What are the other weapons being added to Combat Evolved that weren't in the game previously? We know we're getting 9, and we know what 5 of them are. We still have 4 outstanding. By far, the thing that excites me the most about the Halo Campaign Evolved Halo game that is going to be coming out next year is there are going to be 3 new missions added to the Halo game that are going to be featuring the Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson, as well as new characters, new allies, and new enemies. I have a few ideas of what this is going to be, and let's go ahead and get into that. To quote what is available on Halo Waypoint, new missions, fight beside Sergeant Avery Johnson, one of the Master Chief's most beloved and stalwart allies, as you encounter new characters, enemies, environments, and dangers in 3 new missions set before the events of Halo Combat Evolved.
I'm super excited that this game will include 3 brand new bonus missions. Tell me a little bit about that.
It was really important that we preserve the original story as it is. So these missions specifically are meant to be a prequel, a setup for, the main course. These new missions are going to offer some new opportunities for character interactions, maybe between, Chief and Johnson.
I would say going off of that info, we have a pretty good idea that this will be at least 2, if not 3 missions centered around kind of Master Chief, Sergeant Johnson. What I'm going to suspect is what happened on Gamma Station from the Halo Fall of Reach book. And why I say only 2 missions there, I actually have another idea that I came up with, which would make a ton of sense, would actually work as the tutorial for the game, and I think would do a lot of fan service for all of the diehard Halo fans that have read all the novels and played a lot of the games. What I would suggest is an opening tutorial level, level 1, that is very similar to the tutorial for Fallout 3. And in this, I would suggest that you're playing as the Master Chief as he's kind of jumping through various stages of his Spartan training, probably starting off on day number 1, potentially, in kind of like a cutscene, then it kind of jumps around through stages of his life, and you're learning various skills that will come in handy during gameplay, like how to shoot, how to sprint, how to drive vehicles, any other potential gameplay mechanics that are going to be added could be learned during this tutorial sequence. And in this tutorial sequence, you could have characters that wouldn't normally be in any of the Halo games, like Chief Mendez could show up, or Dr. Halsey, or any of the other Spartan 2s like George or Red Team. Red Team being Jerome Douglas Alice, Blue Team, Fred Kelly Linda, Samuel 34. This could be the perfect way for Sam to show up, and they could potentially even have the end for this tutorial level be the mission where Sam died. That's just a suggestion that I have. Let me know down in the comment section down below what you guys think of that. And then as we fade into the second mission, this could turn out to be like a flashback sequence Master Chief was having, or even potentially it is being told from Cortana's perspective, who is accessing the Master Chief's memories. Which would lead us into Gamma Station, which I will guarantee is going to be the name of one of those 3 levels. The Master Chief, alongside Spartans Linda 058 and James 005, were deployed via Pelican to Gamma Station in 2552 during the Battle for Reach after it was learned that a Oni prowler known as the Circumference was still docked at Gamma Station and was believed not to have had its memory banks wiped to complete the Cole Protocol, and they did not want that intel to fall into the Covenant hands. The Master Chief and team were not the only ones dispatched to delete that information off of the Circumference. A squad of Marines was also deployed under command of Sergeant Avery Johnson, along with several named Marines including Jenkins, O'Brien, Bezzaniti, and Mendoza. To simplify events, the Master Chief and team land on the station. In doing so, James 005 is catapulted out into space after his jetpack is hit from a stray plasma bolt. He is believed to be lost to space. However, in the more recent Halo novel, Empty Throne, it is revealed that he is still alive and active in the Halo universe. The Chief and Linda continue out with the mission in order to complete it. They link up with Johnson and team. The Marines and Spartans fall back to the Pelican. Linda is critically injured by plasma bolts that strike her in the chest and head. She becomes clinically dead until she can be revived and is put on ice in a cryotube and is kind of left there throughout the events of Halo Combat Evolved. We learn that her cryotube was jettisoned and was just kind of floating out in space until it's retrieved by the Master Chief in his longsword after the events of Halo Combat Evolved. In these new missions, what I suspect will happen is we're going to see the Brutes brought back into Halo as an enemy. With the Brutes, I would expect at least 2 new weapons to be added, which would be the Gravity Hammer and the Spiker. The Gravity Hammer, I just don't see them making a Halo game without one these days, especially if there's going to be any kind of a multiplayer component to this game. They're going to need a Gravity Hammer for that, so this would give them a canon way to have it if the Brutes were on Gamma Station, or if there's going to be a different prequel level that involves the Brutes, throwing the Gravity Hammer in there would work out great. Same thing goes for the Spiker. Those 2 weapons kind of go hand in hand. Getting us slightly back on topic with things that we actually know as fact is that there will be 9 new weapons added. 5 of them we know, 4 of them we don't. The 5 that we know are going to be the Battle Rifle, the Needle Rifle, the Energy Sword and Fuel Rod Cannon, as well as the Sentinel Beam. The Energy Sword and Fuel Rod Cannon were both in Halo Combat Evolved, however neither were playable by the player character, they were only wieldable by the Covenant. The other 3 weapons make sense, the Battle Rifle and the Needle Rifle being as kind of opposites of each other, which is something I think that they're going to be adding with some of these other weapons coming in. As with the Spiker, I think what they would add as an alternate would be the SMG. That's a very common, iconic Halo weapon. The 9th weapon I would suggest would be the Beam Rifle being added to Halo Campaign Evolved, as Halo Combat Evolved does not have any form of Covenant Sniper Rifle. We could also see 2 of those weapon slots being taken up by detachable turrets, like the machine gun turret and the plasma turret. Those could take up weapon slots, but those could also be counted as more of like an environmental item, because I think in Halo Infinite they're not directly counted as weapons, they're more counted as an environmental effect that you can pick up and use on the battlefield, and it doesn't take up a proper weapon slot. Flamethrower also could be kind of in that same vein, where it's not directly as a weapon, but an environmental effect that you can pick up and use, but doesn't take up a proper weapon slot. Sure, there are plenty of other weapons that we could see added to the game, like the Spartan Laser, the Brute Shot, or even the DMR. However, I think I'm going to stick with saying the Gravity Hammer, the Spiker, the SMG, and the Beam Rifle as the 4 weapons that we don't currently know about that will be added to the game. And we haven't heard about the Spiker or the Gravity Hammer yet because Halo Studios isn't ready to announce that there will be Brutes in the prequel missions. With the SMG being added, I've heard a few people say that that makes sense as to why the assault rifle would only be 32 rounds now instead of the proper 60 that originally was, because there's a new high-capacity submachine gun being added, being the SMG. And then as for the beam rifle, that opens us up to new enemy types like Jackal snipers or elite snipers, brute snipers even too. Same thing would apply to the needle rifle, but I would say that any of the games that we have Jackal snipers, they usually have one of 2 weapons, being either the needle rifle or the carbine, which carbine is also another weapon that's possible, but I think they're only going to add one. I don't think they're going to add both the needle rifle and the carbine. I think it's just going to be one. But Jackal snipers will usually have whatever the carbine of the game is, carbine, needle rifle, and then they will also have a sniper rifle, which would be the beam rifle or the focus rifle, but I think the beam rifle is the more iconic of the two. Let's talk about vehicles. So we know that the Warthog, the Wraith, and the Ghost are going to be in the game. The Wraith and the Ghost are going to be drivable. I believe the Wraith was not drivable in the original version of Combat Evolved. However, it will be drivable in Campaign Evolved. It will also be able to be hijacked. Same thing goes for the Ghost and the Warthog. I don't know who you're going to be hijacking the Warthog from. Could potentially have Flood driving Warthogs again, which hasn't really been a thing since Halo 2, and then it did show up in Halo Wars 2, but Flood have been proven to drive vehicles before, so that's something that could be coming up in the game. We know that there's going to be new Flood types added to Halo Combat Evolved. The Scorpion and then the Banshee should both be returning as playable vehicles in Halo Campaign Evolved. They were both present in Combat Evolved. We could also see new vehicles being added. I don't think there's been any mention of new vehicles, just additions to existing vehicles. They might add like passenger seats to the Scorpion for players to ride on, since they did that to the Warthog, adding a fourth seat.
New seat, what I like to call the golf cart seat or the bumper seat. This is on the back of the Warthog, so now you can bring everyone with.
Mind if I join you?
I have seen a lot of people complain about there being 4 seats on the Warthog. It honestly doesn't bother me that much, just because it's actually canon that people will ride on the back of the Warthog. That's actually something that we've seen in several of the Halo novels at this point, and would not surprise me if we see that added to the Scorpion. I would say of new vehicles to be added to the game, the one that makes the most sense would be the Falcon. Obviously, the Falcon we just got added into Halo Infinite, so we know that they are thinking of the Falcon. The Falcon was also canonically present on Alpha Halo via the Fireteam Raven Halo arcade game that is canon in the Halo universe, that Falcons were on Alpha Halo. We can also see in Fireteam Raven that Falcons were not the only UNSC vehicle added to the roster of vehicles the humans had access to on Alpha Halo. We can also see the Mongoose in Fireteam Raven. It's gonna blink and you miss it, kind of off to the left there, but it is there. The Mongoose was canonically on Alpha Halo. And then, of course, the Flood. The Flood are coming back. We know there will be new Flood types added to the game. I believe the tank form from Halo 3 was shown off as concept art during the roundtable video. I think I showed a picture of it. I'll just throw that picture up again. Aside from the tank form, we could see the Flood Juggernaut make a return. That was, I believe, a cut enemy type for Halo Combat Evolved that did end up showing up in Halo Wars 2 as well as Fireteam Raven. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Flood could also gain the ability to utilize vehicles like they could in Halo 2. We could see a lot of other elements pulled from Fireteam Raven, but not just Fireteam Raven itself. There could be a lot of elements pulled from the Flood novel. We could also see some elements pulled from First Strike as well. We could see some of the human survivors making some sort of a cameo appearance. We could potentially even see how named characters like Sergeant Stacker and Chips DeBow managed to get off of Alpha Halo and make it back to Earth, as they did not join the Master Chief. So how did they get back to Earth? Maybe that could be explored in the Campaign Evolved remake of Halo Combat Evolved. Locations like Alpha Base could show up, characters like Major Silva, and some of the other named characters that could show up. It could just be showing up in cutscenes. They may not show up in any kind of gameplay. But hey, those are just some rough ideas that I've had over the last couple of days since the new trailer came out and what we've learned about Halo Campaign Evolved. If you have other ideas of what's going to be coming, please leave those down in the comments down below. I always love hearing what you guys have to say. If you guys are interested in Halo content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I guess hit the hype button. That's a new thing. I haven't had a video come out since then, so hit that hype button too. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment, do all those YouTube things. And you guys have a great rest of your day.